It's time again for the Insiders with Chuck Chvala and Scott Jensen, sponsored by the Wisconsin Counties Association and the Tommy G. Thompson Center on Public Leadership.
Hi, I'm Scott Jensen, former Assembly Speaker.
And I'm Chuck Chvala, former Senate Majority Leader.
And we're the Insiders, and we're excited now. We know what the dance card looks like for the fall elections with regards to Congress. And there's one race that's clearly ranked as a toss-up, one of the most hotly contested races in the country for Congress, and that's the 3rd Congressional District in the La Crosse, Eau Claire area, western Wisconsin. And Democrats had a vigorous primary and produced their candidate there, Ms. Cook. So how do you think she's going to do in the general election against Congressman Van Orden?
Well, she did come through a vigorous primary, and winning a primary has always been a good sign, of course, and she won pretty handily, believe it or not. I think she's also got to be really happy with having Governor Walz on the ballot. I mean, because La Crosse is right across the river. I mean, a lot of that district hugs right along that area. So I think she's excited about that. I think they've got a great chance. I think Van Orden is a very weak candidate. He's been just, outrageous. He's interrupting the president when he's speaking at the State of the Union. He's going after kids who are trying to take pictures in the Capitol. He just seems to, and you had another recent incident, after a while, the common denominator is that Van Orden's a problem. So I think there's a really good shot there. And that'll be an interesting race. And I think that if Kamala Harris continues to gain momentum, that's a race that Democrats have a very good chance of winning. And then the question is, other races in Wisconsin, are there others going to be put in play? And so, Scott, what's your take on the 3rd?
Well, on the 3rd, I think the Democrats did get the better candidate coming out of those primaries. In this election cycle, in a district like that, a woman who's portrayed herself as a blue dog Democrat, as a moderate, is probably a good thing compared to the politician she ran against, someone who's already been elected official. But it's not like she's really never been involved in politics before. She was a political fundraiser. The vigorous debate they had during the primary pushed her a little bit to the left. But I think people are misreading this district. This district has changed. Chuck, you and I knew this district as a moderate district. It was Steve Gunderson's district for a couple of decades, a moderate Republican, followed by Ron Kind for almost a couple of decades as a moderate Democrat. That is what that district used to be like. That district now is very populist. That's why Trump is going to win it and did win it before. This district has moved into this there's this sense that Washington isn't listening, that, I'm working my butt off here with 2 jobs and no one gives a damn. And I think every time you guys criticize Congressman Van Orden for his behavior, people are going, we need someone like that to go shake him up in Washington. And I think that while people like you and I might think, well, that's rather incivil, most people like saying they could use, a punch in the nose in Washington, D.C. These people aren't listening to us. And I think the sort of fighting style that Van Orden has is exactly what this district is about. But we'll see how that matchup goes. But you're right. There's enough money in American politics that there'll be more than one of these races that ends up lighting up the screens here in Wisconsin. What about the 1st and the 8th?
And by the way, I think that whoever is seen as the change agent here will be helpful, but I think she'll be seen as the change agent, not the existing incumbent. Here's the thing. I think Peter Barca, in a district that actually is pretty darn good on the numbers, has a chance of beating Style. And it would be because Kamala Harris is doing well, and Peter Barca is a remarkable candidate, and I think will do a really good job. And everybody likes him over in that neck of the woods, especially. And I'll tell you, the sleeper race of them all, there's no reason you should believe this based upon the numbers. But if you think about it a little bit, the reason the numbers aren't good up in that 8th district in Green Bay is because Gallagher's been running, and Gallagher was a true American hero, serviceman, focused on China, doing some really good things. He said, I've had enough with this Republican Party. I'm out of here. And he did not run. And what is the race looking like now? You've got Dr. Kristen Lyerly, who is basically the face of abortion rights and reproductive rights in a year when that is going to really be a big issue. Woman, doctor, an amazing candidate, really does a great job against the personally nominated person from Donald Trump, endorsed by Donald Trump, Weed. This is going to be a matchup where we're going to see the personification of the strongest Democratic issue with the fading light of Donald Trump on the other side. even though the numbers wouldn't suggest it because of Gallagher having been there and other things, I think this could be a sleeper race. Do not be surprised if Kristen Lyerly becomes the next congressperson from that area. So Democrats, but look at this. One thing that is true, it's definitely Republicans on the defense in Wisconsin for Congress and Democrats on the offense. And I think with the energy that's going on here, this may finally be a race where the race isn't decided at the presidential level by 1%. If Kamala Harris gets a 3-point margin, all three of those races are in play.
Well, I'd like to go back to Chuck's comment that in the 8th, you wouldn't really believe this based upon the numbers, and stick with that. You shouldn't believe this based upon the numbers. The 8th Congressional District is a safe Republican seat. They nominated someone who fits the profile of folks in that area. The President, Trump, is going to win that district. And the candidate who came forward is a small businessman. And both Democrat and Republicans have nominated and won as small business people in that district. This is the land of the Catholic deer hunter. That's the profile of this district. And while it is true that abortion is going to be a powerful issue for Democrats in a district like that, which is closely matched between whether it is pro-life or pro-choice, it's a completely different leap to say, now let's elect an abortionist. It is one thing to say, let's elect somebody who believes this is a woman's right to choose versus someone who actually goes in and performs that horrible procedure. So I don't think that the Catholic deer hunters who represent the 8th Congressional District are going to flip. And not only that, the numbers just don't make that possible. You're right. The closer race there is the 1st Congressional District, which for people is Kenosha, Racine, Janesville, Walworth County area. And the Democrats do have a good candidate in Peter Barker, clearly well qualified. He was actually the congressman for this district back in the 90s for one term. But I just think Congressman Style is the kind of guy who works his district constantly. You get big points as a congressman if you're actually doing the constituent work, actually out and about in your district. You tend to float above the rest of the ticket, and all the polling that has been shown in this district so far this year shows him doing much better than any other Republican in that district. He's really probably one of the most popular public officials in that entire district. So I feel very, very confident that Style is going to get reelected there in the 1st.
Let me push back only on one issue. We'll leave the rest of them alone. And that is, I believe the abortion issue, and you've heard this from me now for quite a while, has changed, has really changed. People have heard these stories of a 10-year-old child not being able to get an abortion. A woman who wants to have children, and the one twin is going to kill the other twin and potentially her. People now realize this is something that needs to be left to women. That's what's changed about this. And there's a reason there's not even a plank in the Republican Party platform about this. There's a reason that Donald Trump doesn't brag about appointing the 3 Supreme Court justices who overturned Roe versus Wade. People have been educated, men as well as women, young people in particular, who seem now energized in Wisconsin. Don't be sleeping on this 8th district race. And by the way, if I saw Peter Barca and Dr. Lyerly and Rebecca Cook all in there, that would be one heck of a populist group to be in the congressional delegation in Wisconsin.
Well, Dr. Lyerly has lost before, and she will lose again in this race. I think that all 3 Republicans, in all 3 districts, the Republicans will win, but the Democrats have nominated good strong candidates in the 1st and the 3rd. But we'll see how it plays out.
We'll see you next time.
You've been listening to The Insiders with Chuck Chvala and Scott Jensen, sponsored by the Wisconsin Counties Association and the Tommy G. Thompson Center on Public Leadership.